Boo, damn it. I scare y'all? I'm running a little late. Running a couple minutes late. Just trying to get things set up, get some topics in line for us as the college football season is winding down. We got one more game, and that is the national title game. It looks like an old school Rose Bowl showdown. Michigan versus Washington, right? See all we got up in here so far already. We got Johnny Fairlane's in the house. Sooner Ross is up in here. Thunder OU Sooner, always up in here. Says Texas is back to choking. Or no. Texas, there it is. Texas is back to choking again. And we have Sooner Legends podcast in the house. Old Mike's done started him up a channel. Y'all check his channel out if you get a chance. He ain't got it quite set up to where he likes quite yet. So just give him a little patience and help him out. Push him out to everybody and get Mike's podcast legs underneath him. And there comes Mary Caroline. She's in the house. She's always a big supporter of the program. Sweet Caroline. Dun, dun, dun. And there comes Jack Acker as always. Hey, JPC and everyone. The playoff games were awesome. Yeah, for once, we didn't have a blowout game. But it's not over yet. Remember what happened last year? We had a couple of close games, and then boom, shakalaka, boom, TCU shit the bed and messed it up for everybody. So let's hope that doesn't happen this coming week. Maybe it'll be a good game. I hope not. I hope Washington beats the snot out of them. Who y'all rooting for? I'm rooting for Washington. They haven't won a national title in quite some time. I think the last time Washington won a national championship was 1991. Bestiste? I can't say your name, brother. Bestiste. When did Texas ever leave choking? Seems like they think Texas is still choking. Me personally, I would say they're probably back since they did make the playoffs. They've never made the playoffs before in the 14 playoff era, so it's a big step for Texas. Give them a little slack, man. Why y'all so mean to those Horns, man? Damn. Zach Hammer says he's going for Washington. So does Mary Caroline, oh sweet Caroline. They're both a couple of lefty schools, says Batista. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, man. I called you a wrestler just now. But let's might have Kuz's Corner here later on tonight. He might have some conference realignment nuggets for us. I asked him earlier if he could do that for me, maybe pull me up some conference realignment stuff. He's real good at talking about that kind of stuff. So what's y'all's take on this college football season? What's your takeaways? Is the Florida State fiasco and them crying and continually still wetting their diapers to this day, is that the biggest story of the year? What's the biggest story of the year so far? What's the biggest story of this past year, 2023 football season? What do y'all think? Jack Acker says, this is going to sound like blasphemy coming from me, but I'm going for Washington. We lost to them by 3 both times, so they beat the team that beat Bama. We are on the right track. It seems like people still hold up the signs, we want Bama. They still ain't holding up, we want Georgia. Even though those hedge pissers did win back-to-back national titles, they still ain't on the same level as Alabama. Nobody is really. I ain't saying that to piss nobody off. I'm not bragging or anything. But, yeah. Yeah, I got an Alabama fan that tried to call me out earlier. He got mad at me because I said that we squeaked by Georgia. And he said that was an insult to Alabama. And he said, I had subscribed to you, but now I'm going to unsubscribe. And I just told him basically that's weak sauce. Just because I disagree with you or we don't always agree, and that's no reason to unsubscribe, man. That's just weak. Some people are just weak like that, though, right? Thunder OU Center says it seems like the stars are in the line for Michigan. Could be right. I know everybody wants to put an asterisk beside Michigan's national title if they win it this year because of the cheating scandal from last year. But it's just like I told my buddy Justin from Kuz's Corner when we was talking about it. I don't think they were really cheating this year because they got called out on it. So I do believe that they were probably on the up and up this year. I can't prove that. They may have been cheating. Harbaugh's got some gall balls sometimes. He's a weird, quirky little fella. Well, not little, but he's a quirky fella. Big Cojones Kelly with the first donation of the night as this college football season comes to a close in the final week. Big Cojones Kelly says for $5. Well, one day down, we have tied down and horns down in 2024. Go Tigers. By the way, go is spelled G-O. Just so you coon asses know. I'm trying to help y'all out, because, that's an extra what? 3 letters? And y'all probably wasted over a period of, I guess, let's say someone lives to be 90. You probably wasted at least a year of your life spelling out Geox instead of go. That's right. I'm taking a shot early. Bring it. Come on. I know you want to bring it, Big Cojones. Bring it, brother. Bring it. There's a guy earlier named Ronnie Vernon Harris, whatever. It was his Georgia Hedge Pitchers on Facebook. Me and Johnny Fairlane trying to get him to come over here. He's talking a lot of smack to Brandon Dunn. Got so pissed off with his grilling on the Hedge Pitchers that he basically told me that he wanted to throw hands. I'm like, man, we're like 2 states away from each other. You and Brandon Dunn, me and you's the state away. You talking all this Billy Badass behind the keyboard shit, man. It just kills me how people start threatening to throw hands on the internet, knowing that they 2 or 3 states away, knowing they ain't going to do jack shit. I told him, I was like, man, what you can do is you can go to Tuscaloosa, since you called me out. And that's the rule with me. If you're going to call a man out, he gets to name the spot. So I'm naming the spot, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Rhythm and Brews. Come down there and ask for JPC. They'll find me for you. And we'll either talk about it or you'll show me that you got some spine and you'll try to throw some hands, or more likely what will happen is you'll buy me a beer and tell me how funny I am, and then I'll proceed to dance for your wife. And if you get mad about that, I'll just drink your beer, slap your mouth. Dance with your wife, drink your beer, slap your mouth. Ass whooped, coochie took. Let's pull something up for you guys and gals real quick. Give y'all a little college football knowledge after I've done my little smack session there. A lot of people like for me to do that, so I do it from time to time. Says here, share this. Y'all see that? All right. Will Michigan's bully ball or Washington's explosive offense prevail in the national title game? By the way, I love this helmet. I'd love to get me one of these helmets. Oh, yeah. Number 1 versus number 2. Washington for it all. Big Ten tradition. Pause to absorb the sarcasm. Turns out to be the matchup in the final 4 teams. It says down here, if you scroll down a little further, right here. Here it is. This is pretty interesting. It says more than that, 9 months from now, Washington will host Michigan as Big Ten rivals on October 5th in Husky Stadium, just months after deciding to join the Big Ten. So we'll have a rematch of the national title game next year in the middle of October. First, I thought it was the beginning of the year. That would have been epic. Got all that? Realignment is the gift that keeps on giving. The matchup should also please the football gods as it features college football's top 2 seeds and only undefeated teams remaining. The game is filled with storylines. The nation's best defense, that's Michigan, against the nation's best passing offense, Washington. The game's quirkiest coach, as I said earlier, Jim Harbaugh, against the game's 3rd winningest active coach, Kalen DeBoer, who has an 82% winning percentage in his games. There's rumors that Kalen DeBoer may be up for some NFL jobs this year as well. I don't know if y'all have heard that or not. I'm going to get that off there for y'all. All right. And if y'all want to get your comment highlighted like Big Cojones Kelly just did, I can't see everybody's comments. If you want to get it highlighted and push to the top and you actually want me to read it out and actually address it, there's a little money dollar sign at the bottom with a circle around it. Click on that, and we should be able to get you in there, and it'll highlight your comment, and I'll read it out and I'll answer whatever question it is that you want for just a small donation to the program. Ride Guy 1218's in the house. He's got his badge. You'll see people in here with the badges too. They're in the Outlaw Posse. That's $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. In case y'all wonder if you want to get your badge, get deputized, maybe get a random Four Horseman shout out on the actual podcast and in here, as well as possibly be the comment of the day on the actual podcast. Ride Guy 1218 says, I'm going to be rooting hard for the Wolverines next Monday. Well, Ride Guy, we actually have a few people in here that are Oregon fans that are saying that they are actually rooting for Washington. You believe that? I think it was who was it that said that a while ago? And we have Lori Brogdon finally in the house. I don't know where Killer Breeze is tonight, Lori, before you ask me. I know you're going to ask me that. So maybe I'll text him real quick, see what's up with him for you guys and gals. All righty. Put it on here for him. There we go. Maybe he'll pop up in here in just a second. Sooners Legend Podcast that said Matt Wells is an offensive analyst. Not sure where that conversation is. I just clicked on that randomly. Leanne Livers is in the house. She's a regular up in here. Michigan's defense hasn't played a quarterback like Penix. Well, as far as being a guy that can run like Penix, Jalen Milroe can do that. Now, Jalen Milroe is probably not as good as a passer as Penix, obviously. So you're somewhat right about that. Rye Guy has some not so nice things to say about the Huskies. Lloyd Bryden said I could have texted Killer Breeze myself. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Hell, call him. Don't be scared. Call him. Tell him to get his lazy ass in here. Jack Acker says, I'm pulling for Washington as a measuring stick for Oregon. If Washington goes out TCU style, that means Oregon isn't ready for the big boys. I guess that's one way of looking at it, but the way I would look at it if I was playing devil's advocate with you, Jack, is the fact that I would not want Washington to win if I was an Oregon fan, because recruiting-wise, that would be a big coup for Washington to be able to say, hey, look, we've won 2 national titles and Oregon's won 0. So that might be where Ride Guy 1218 is coming from. Ballard Sports Media is in the house. What's up? Appreciate you being here, Ballard. I ain't seen Ballard in a while. Usually Ballard's not up in here, but he's a pretty good guy too. He's got his own podcast as well. If y'all like Alabama sports and football and whatnot, basketball, Ballard Sports Media is your man. Check him out when you get a chance. Like, share, comment, and subscribe on his channel. Also, if y'all don't mind, jump out real quick. Hit the like button. It'll push the algorithm and it'll get this party more crunk than what it already is. Right now, we got 21 people in the house. It's a little slow going tonight. It's the day after New Year's Day, so I imagine people are still recovering from that and the fact that they had to actually go back to work today. Bring something else up for y'all. I don't know, is Big Coneys in here? Yeah, Big Coneys in here. This is for Big Coneys. Kelly. Tyrann Mathieu, former LSU cornerback, has a warning for Jaden Daniels. He says his growth from last year to this year was almost Joe Burrow-like. He really put the team on his back, Mathieu said, of Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy. But Mathieu said he was wishing Daniels all the best in the future. But hopefully he don't try me when he comes in the league. I'll be waiting on him, Mathieu cautioned. So your boy's already talking smack to a fellow alumni. Although I don't think Jaden actually graduated, did he? How do y'all think Jaden Daniels will fare in the NFL 3 or 4 years down the road? You can't ever really judge a quarterback by his first 2 years in the NFL, in my opinion. It's a big learning curve, as you've seen from even guys like Peyton Manning, who was 3-13 his first year or something like that. I think Troy Aikman was 1-15, even further back in the day. So, no problem, Ballard. Rod Guy 1218 says if Washington wins it all, then we're kind of screwed for a long term with recruiting in the portal. I sort of agree with that. Thunder OU Center says, Lori, I hope Michigan wins because the Big 12 refs cheating OU with bad refereeing. It's fitting for a cheater to win the whole thing. Yeah, we just talked about that. I don't really think they cheated this year, Thunder, but they did cheat last year. And they probably will get some kind of penalties out of it. Just not sure the NCAA will give them much because NCAA is a joke. Well, Slobberknocker, I think they do. There's a couple of people in here that's actually wanting Michigan to win, especially some Oregon fans, because Oregon and Washington are like Alabama and Auburn and Oklahoma and Texas, and that kind of deal. If I was going to say Oklahoma State, nah. Okeechobee State was a charity case for the Oklahoma Sooners for quite some time. Now let's stop this screen as I got my LSU nugget and shout out for Big Cojones Kelly. By the way, if any of y'all ever want to be on the show with me, just hit me up on Twitter, aka X, the Rings of Saturn, whatever the hell Elon Musk wants to call it this week, Bear Bryant's bowels. I don't know what he's going to call it. But anyway, y'all can hit me up on Twitter at OCF Productions if you want to be on, or on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark, JESSC, spelled without an I. As you can see, it's scrolling across the screen down here. Mary Caroline's supposed to be on the show. Really now? I forgot about that. Mary Caroline, you want to be on the show? Just let me know. I will sure enough send you an email through my Gmail, my G-Spot. Yeah, just let me know. I can compose it, and I can send it anytime you want me to. Just let me know if one of y'all want to be on here. Copy that. All right. Jack Acker's in the house still with his badge. He's deputized. He's an outlaw posse. We're going to have a big advantage over the Huskies. Way better recruiting class and DG. Plus, our defense is more consistent, and they won't have Penix. That is true. That is true. But I still see that winning a national title would still be give them some kind of badge of some sort to take into recruiting homes if they're going head-to-head with Oregon over a recruit. I could see it definitely happening. Like I said, here in about 10 minutes, Kuz's Corner may be coming in here to give us some rundown on some possible conference realignment. He may have some, he may not. He may just come in here to talk some shit and, straighten out all you people in here that like to call it West Vagina. You prefer being a spectator, huh? So you're a watcher. You're a watcher. Maybe we don't want you watching. Maybe we want you to join in, Mary. Sweet Caroline. Dun, dun, dun. You making Killer Breeze blush. Y'all gonna make people blush in here and everything. Now, the Michigan-Washington game. A lot of people are saying that this ain't the matchup that the networks wanted. Everybody wanted to see an Alabama and Texas rematch. I don't know if y'all are in agreement with that. I'm an SEC guy. Of course, I was rooting for Alabama, and I would have loved to have had a rematch with Texas, but it didn't happen. A lot of people think that this is a bad matchup for ratings, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a decent game. I think it's going to get good ratings, and I think it's good for college football. Yes, I'm an SEC guy, but the SEC being there every single year has got to probably become very vanilla for everybody else in the nation. Uh, and there's always a Southern team in there. If Texas had gotten in, they're sort of like a Southern team. Technically, they are part of the southern part of the United States. For somebody tries to run in here and correct me, they're not really the South. Yes, they are. Hell, Southern California is the South because technically, geographically speaking, they are part of the southern part of the United States. It's been a while since a team from the South part of the United States has not been in the national championship game. Both of these teams are just about as far north as you can get. So I think it gives college football something different, gives it a little variety. And I think even though it was at my expense, I think it's a good change of pace for college football. Sisyphus, JWK's in here. I don't know if you know this or not, Sisyphus, but if you look at the scroll down here, I've actually got you listed as a VIP donor. Just so you know. Sisyphus JWK says, remember, you're apparently a fair weather fan if you think BV is a mediocre coach. I never said that. I know when I done that podcast saying that, I think Brent Venables is still the guy, I never said that the people that disagreed with me were fair weather. But there were a lot of Oklahoma people in there taking up for Brent Venables, Sisyphus. They did say that. You're right. So what do y'all think about that? Sisyphus JWK thinks that, maybe some of the Oklahoma fans out there that are being a little overbearing towards those that think Brent Venables is not the man and that you should allow them to have their opinion without being jackasses about it. Jack Acker says, Rod Guy 12-18. I definitely see your point. In a way, it's lose-lose. If they win, they get more fame. But if they get blown out, it makes us look bad since we lost to them, even if it was just by 3. It's a good point. Hey, look now, y'all not going to be in here talking a foreign language. Light, rock, dark. These damn coons in here, these coon asses, they think, the Louisiana people, they think that it's pretty cute talking that hybrid, half-ass French Cajun language. Slobberknocker says, what's your opinion on my Aggies bowl game? Well, y'all lost, right? So I think that you can't really judge any of these teams by their bowl games because of all the setouts and all the crap that was going on during the season for Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher and the stuff that went down with him. A lot of controversy and turmoil his last year there. Mike Elko done really well at Duke, but he was only there a couple of years. So was Mike Elko really y'all's first choice is my question to you, Slobberknocker, if you're an Aggies fan. I think Mike Elko was probably at best second or third choice, maybe even further down the ladder. But I think Texas A&M could have done better. I think they could have done better than Mike Elko, in my opinion. If they'd been just a little more patient, I think Mike Elko might work out for y'all. But I still think that y'all should have probably hired a bigger name than Mike Elko. What do you think, Slobberknocker? Johnny Fairlane says, I agree. Parity is good for business. Yeah, I think it's a good thing, even though it was at my expense and the Texas fans' expense. What we went from having was a future SEC, two SEC members playing each other to two soon-to-be Big Ten members playing each other. So next year, this would have been an all Big Ten, all SEC Final Four, right? Because Texas will be in the SEC next year. Like I said, I can't get all of y'all's comments on here. So if you want to make a donation to the program and get your comment pushed to the top and get it highlighted, there's a little money dollar sign at the bottom. Just click on that, write your comment out, then click again and send. It's 2 clicks, but make sure you don't click the second time until you write your comment out so that you get your money's worth and I can read your comment out and respond to it. Now, for your Oklahoma fans, I found a little something interesting I was going to show y'all real quick. New Year's resolutions ahead of the SEC move. Taking stock of Oklahoma's New Year's resolution ahead of the SEC move, it says. When the Sooners take the field for Brent Venables' next game in charge, OU will don patches of the Southeastern Conference, not the Big 12, on its shoulder pads. A moment years in the making. Quarterback Jackson Arnold will have an entire spring and summer as Oklahoma's starting quarterback under his belt before leading Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley's unit in 2024. And a new class of recruits and transfers will be settling in to Norman. And here's the things they think they need to do next year for Oklahoma to have a successful first year in the SEC is tighten up the passing defense. The Sooners made a lot of defensive strides in 2023, but OU's passing defense was still deficient. And that's what I've been telling people. It wasn't all the offense's fault. The offensive coordinator at Oklahoma that they tried to blame, Jeff Lebby, I think he took too much of the brunt on a lot of the blame. Entering the Alamo Bowl, Oklahoma ranked 99th overall in passing yards per game allowed. I did not know that. And 99th? Damn. And the performance against Arizona and San Antonio only added to the headache. All right. And further down here it says number 2. Actually, let's read this too. The Sooners battled an injury bug at the cornerback spot, so that could explain that. Woody Washington, pair of young safeties in Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears Jennings alongside veteran star Billy Bowen. But there's still plenty of work to do each day. And it's also saying that y'all need to find more consistency in the pass rush, which is another defensive thing. It says too many times, right down here, below the Marvel thing, too many times in 2023, Venables, our defensive coordinator, Ted Ruth, had to explain away the lack of pass rush after games due to the opposing offense getting the ball out too quickly or committing too many errors of numbers to protecting the quarterback. Defensive ends Ethan Downs and Rondell Boothroyd did an excellent job setting the edge and helping the Sooners dictate play on the ground, but the emergence of a healthy Mason Thomas or more experienced, I ain't going to say his name. Third thing, protect Jackson Arnold. That is paramount. Jackson Arnold, he's not going to have any experience behind him whatsoever. So if he gets injured, it could be another Dylan Gabriel situation from 2022. So we need to protect, y'all need to protect Jackson Arnold. And number 4, eliminate mistakes on special teams. In other words, y'all made a lot of mistakes on special teams according to them. Sending out a field goal kicker was the only stress-inducing part of the special teams this year. Venables might have slept easier after a few Saturday games, but execution in the third phase of the game wasn't always a given. So get y'all a field goal kicker. Johnny Fairlane with a big-time donation here. Johnny Fairlane says, Kirby said himself that the opt-outs are hurting the game. I agree with that completely. Completely. And let's backtrack to a podcast that I've done about Florida State, which is really doing well, by the way. It's almost 7,000 views in just a couple of days. I used to be in favor of the opt-outs. I used to be okay with that. I was cool with the players setting out the bowl game. But with the introduction of NIL and these players getting paid now, I think they should have to play. And people are like, well, that's their name, image, and likeness. They're making that money on their own. That's not the university. Oh, yes, it is. Without the universities putting these players on the field to showcase their talents, they don't get NIL deals. So show a little gratitude and play out the season. Don't leave your brothers hanging. What those Florida State players did and the mass exodus that they had was just straight cowardice to me. If you're getting NIL deals and you're getting paid because Florida State University or Alabama or Oklahoma or Ohio State or any college football team out there puts you on the field and showcases your talents and you make money off of that, you absolutely at that point owe the university your best foot forward and to finish what you started, in my opinion. Yeah, well, I guess I didn't. That's my bad. I'll have to send it to him. May send Kuz his link real quick. There we go. I'll send it now. Tell him I sent it, Lori. If you don't mind. Y'all got Kuz on dial-up or you got him on your friends list. Y'all hit him up and tell him I forgot to send the link. That's my bad. He should just come in here and told me. If he just come in here and told me, I could have sent it to him. But anyway, that's my bad. John Ritchie says OU signees are looking really good at the UA All-American game. Yeah, I heard that was a pretty good showing for the Oklahoma commits thus far. What are y'all here talking about marshmallows? I have to catch me up on that. I don't know what the marshmallow talk's all about. But let me go ahead and bring in Kuz here since I forgot to send him the link. You know, I'm getting old and shit. I colored my beard so y'all wouldn't know I was old as hell. But let me bring him in here real quick. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, West Virginia's consummate podcaster, the greatest conference realignment podcaster of all time.
I don't know about that now.
How's it going, brother? Sorry I didn't send you the link.
All right, that's no worries. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Talking up things a little bit about the last week of college football. We got national championship game. I was just talking about how I think it's actually a good thing that these two teams made it, and for a change that we don't have a Southern team in there. It gives a little variety to college football.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, as you know, as somebody who's an outsider, obviously I don't have a dog in the fight. I like it. Changes things up. It's different. I'm more excited about watching the game than I probably would be otherwise, to be honest with you, because it's two teams that I don't necessarily see on TV a whole lot personally, especially Washington, who typically plays late at night, you know, over on the Pac-12 after dark and all that stuff. So I'm excited about it.
And outside the SEC, people, nobody really wants to see an Alabama-Texas rematch.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had predicted that, but that's wasn't really my – which I don't really – I mean, that's – again, I don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm not that passionate about it either way, but I didn't really want to see a Texas-Alabama rematch, but that's kind of – I kind of envisioned that happening. I was actually surprised Bama didn't play better than they did on Saturday, which, I mean, you got to get – Monday. But you got to give hats off to Michigan. I mean, they were the better team.
They were a better team. They were. Our center just couldn't snap the ball, man. That last play, the ball was snapped low.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is, man. That late in the season, you would think they'd have that down pat, but maybe he was just really nervous. I don't know.
I don't. He was struggling all day.
Once you start snapping it badly like that, it starts playing in your mind.
Mm-hmm. It can, yeah. Well, they were looking for a center in the offseason. I don't know if I think I told you this in the chat. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but
yeah,
this is public knowledge now. So I knew about it months ago, but it became public knowledge a few weeks back. You know, Nick Saban's from West Virginia, and apparently somehow or another word got to West Virginia center Zach Frazier, who's also from West Virginia, that Alabama would like him to come play there. And Not saying they did anything illegal. I'm sure you know how it is. They pass this stuff through third parties, but and they apparently offered him a pretty big chunk of NIL money to come move from West Virginia to Alabama to play center for the Tide.
Yeah, I did not know that. You told me.
And I think he was pretty close to doing it. And West Virginia's NIL collective was able to step up to the plate and add a little bit of money to the pot. They weren't able to match what Alabama's collective offered, but they were able to do better than they were. And it was enough for him to stay. At least that's what I was told.
Let's have a West Virginia fan here. Halo Master 96 says, "By God, West Virginia."
That's right. West by God, Virginia.
He said that Saban is done, 3 or 4 losses next year and heading south. You think Saban's done? I don't think he's done.
No, he loves it too much, man.
12-2 don't look like he's done to me. I mean,
I don't think he would have signed that contract extension through 2027, 28, whatever it was, if he was ready to quit coaching.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he'll quit this year.
And they're not firing him.
He's 12-2 this year. Why would you fire him at this point, right?
Yeah, that's ludicrous.
Even if he lost 3 or 4 games next year with that schedule, you could see that happening. I mean, it's a hard schedule we got next year, really hard. So I forgot to ask you, could you give me a little information on your channel for those who haven't seen you in here?
Yeah,
before?
I'm on my channel name is Kuz's Corner. I don't spelled COUZ''S Corner. Obviously, I'm a West Virginia fan. I cover West Virginia. I cover the Big 12, and I cover a lot about conference realignment. I also have a basketball channel called Hoops from the Hills. That's kind of newer, but it's about a year old, I guess, a little over a year old. But I cover West Virginia basketball over there. Decided to do it on a separate channel just to keep the algorithm from getting confused. As Outlaw can tell you, the YouTube algorithm has a tendency to if you try to do too many topics, man, YouTube don't know who to show you videos to, and it gets lost in the shuffle. So anyway, I decided to do that on a separate channel. But anyway, if you want to come check, if you're interested in West Virginia basketball at all, I'm not sure who would be right now, as bad as we're playing. But anyway, come check it out.
Our basketball team ain't much better. We're like 7-5 or 8-5.
Yeah, we're 5-8, but there's been a lot. I mean, West Virginia's went through more turmoil in the past 6-8 months than any team I've ever seen. So it's kind of expected, to be honest. I mean, when your coach gets a DUI and gets fired in the middle of the summer, and you got to hire an interim coach, and then half your team leaves, and you got guys suspended, you got guys that aren't eligible, you got guys injured. I mean, it's one thing after the other. So
1989 M's in the house. He's our resident Michigan fan that comes in here a lot. He said, "Let's be honest, the earth kind of stops for a moment when Alabama loses a game. Pretty surreal. All this. Go blue." Yeah, I mean, I'm not bragging, but yeah, you're probably right. I'm so close to it that it really doesn't dawn on me that, people are so enamored with Alabama losing. But I guess they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got a donation, Big Cojones Kelly, with $2 donation. I have to thank Cuz for the defensive tackle, Jordan Jefferson.
You're welcome. His replacement transferred as well. This season, this offseason. Mike Lockhart. Yep. And we actually lost another D lineman today to the portal.
Really?
Yep. Tomiwa Durajaye used to play at Kentucky. He was actually he was only a true redshirt freshman. He was an up-and-comer. Really talented guy. I don't know why he's leaving, but I guess somebody's offering him money. So we'll see.
You may not have any nuggets on you, but you have any conference realignment nuggets for me?
The latest thing I heard, and I don't know, you may have already talked about this. If you have, I apologize. But last thing I heard was in the Athletic. Seems like people around Florida State circles are confident that they're going to land in the Big Ten. It seems like the SEC's first choice is to take North Carolina and maybe even Virginia over Florida State. However, and there are 3 teams, according to this report, there are 3 teams in the SEC that don't really want Florida State. One's obvious, Florida, and the other 2 being Georgia and Auburn. I don't think they're real crazy about the idea of bringing Florida State into the conference for obvious reasons, recruiting, right?
Auburn and Georgia are really close to Tallahassee.
Yeah.
People don't realize how close Auburn is to Tallahassee. And Alabama's actually closer to Mississippi State's campus than we are Auburn's. Auburn's clear on the other side of the state.
And but they're saying the SEC would still take them just to keep the Big Ten out of Florida and out of the Southeast.
It might be a good idea to do that. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, do you do that, or do you try to expand your horizons? Do you want to hurt yourself by doing that, by cornering yourself, or do you go for North Carolina and Virginia, like you said?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you don't want – either way you go, unless you take them all, the Big Ten is going to end up in the Southeast at some point, right? You would think. They're going to get – if they don't get Florida State, Clemson, whoever, they're going to take North Carolina, Virginia. So if you're the SEC, do you just try to take all four of those schools just to do your best to keep the Big Ten out? But at some point, it might just become what's the word I'm looking for? Revenue neutral, or even maybe even negative to start taking all these teams if they don't really add value to your league. Yeah,
you become a hoarder.
It's just more teams you have to share the revenue with, and I don't know how many of those teams actually increase. Now, adding North Carolina would probably increase the value because it'd get them into a new state. I don't think Florida State would. I mean, as much as Florida State fans, and I know Florida State's a good brand. I'm not saying they're not a good brand, but you're not really getting in a new territory for the SEC. You already have the state of Florida. So what good does it do you to get Florida State other than just a defensive move to keep the Big Ten out? But, again, if you do that too many times, you could end up biting your own nose off to spite your face, as they say. So I don't know.
I mean, Florida's a pretty populated state. I wouldn't mind getting Florida State or Miami. I don't really want Florida State at this point. They really turned me off with the way they've acted the last year and a half. But what if, and I know this is reaching, I'm going to preface it by saying that this is likely not going to happen, but if the Big Ten's going to try to do something like that, why don't the SEC try to poke them in the eye and get Notre Dame?
Well, I mean, it's
been coveted Notre Dame.
Everybody covets Notre Dame. I mean, who wouldn't want Notre Dame? I mean, they're the most valuable brand in America from a football perspective. So, yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I just think Notre Dame's kind of elitist. I mean, I don't know that the SEC's probably not academically elite enough. Which I'll tell you though, the SEC's taken some really good schools. Some of the schools the SEC's gotten in the last round of realignment. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are both good, especially Texas. A really highly rated academic school. Missouri is a good, really highly rated academic school. Texas A&M.
There was talk that Texas would go to the Big Ten at one point.
Yeah,
there was talk of that back when they was talking about going.
Texas wanted out. Texas wanted out of the Big 12, and SEC. And a matter of fact, I think this was even in the same article, or maybe a different article that I read. Texas, SEC had no plans of expanding, but when Texas and Oklahoma came to them, they had to kick the tires on it, and they knew if they didn't take them, that the Big Ten or at the time the Pac-12 would have. So it was either take them or let somebody else take them and then have to compete with them from a TV perspective.
Well, let's be honest.
They didn't want to do that. So
let's be honest. Those were the two teams that they wanted to begin with back when they took Texas A&M, Missouri. They wanted Texas and Oklahoma then, and it just didn't pan out for them. Or I think they might have wanted Texas and Texas A&M both, but they definitely didn't want Missouri at the time. Missouri was somebody that added these two. They couldn't turn it down, like you said. These are teams that have multiple national championships between them. They got over, 7 for Oklahoma and 4 for Texas. That's 11 national titles between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jack Acker makes a good point. I mean, they do value their independence. I don't see Notre Dame joining a conference unless they lose their shot or their opportunity to get in the playoff. I don't see them ever joining a conference in football.
Do you know Greg Swain?
A little bit. I don't know him personally, but I know of him, and I've communicated with him a little bit.
I just want to touch on this real quick. There's some Greg Swain dude on Twitter spreading a rumor that Brent Venables sent someone to steal signs.
Interesting. I do know he's an Oklahoma State guy.
Everybody's accusing everybody of stealing signs now. That's the new thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'm not saying Brian's wrong. I just haven't seen him personally. But I mean, Greg is known for putting out some stuff on Twitter that a lot of people don't believe.
Zach Harbert says the conferences and bowls are dying and headed for districts with 7 to 8 teams with 64 team playoff. I don't think it'll ever get to that many. Football is not like basketball. You can't play a game every 2 or 3 days. They have to recover from more injuries in football, so I don't ever see it going past 16. They may go to 16 at some point, but I don't see it getting past 16. What do you think, Kuz?
I don't think so. I just don't see how it – I just don't know if it's feasible to go past 16. Number one, from a competitive standpoint. I mean, let's be honest. Is the 16th ranked team good enough to compete with the top ranked team in college football? There might be a year occasionally where that's true, but not very often.
Yeah. I think 12 as far as it needs to go, in my opinion.
I mean, I could live with 16, but I don't any bigger than that. I don't know that I'd be on board with that.
Here's the comment you was talking about with Jack Acker and Notre Dame valuing their independence. Normally I would agree with y'all, but they went out of their way to get AAU status, which is a big hard-on for the Big Ten. Yeah. So that makes me think that Notre Dame's going that way. That
definitely did raise my eyebrow. I can't do the one eyebrow raise like the Rock, but it definitely makes you wonder, right? If speaking of which, he was on Raw last night, but that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, it definitely makes you raise your eyebrows. I kind of thought the same thing because they don't do Notre Dame don't spend a whole lot of money on research. So
that's what I'm saying.
For them to be AAU, somebody did them a favor for something. That's the only thing I can think of.
That'd be like saying Boise State's a good law school or some shit.
Yeah. And they do have that partnership with the ACC, but they're in the ACC in other sports, but not football. They're in it in basketball and several other sports. And it's my understanding that part of their agreement is if they join a conference before the year 2036 in football, it has to be the ACC. That's part of the agreement. But we all know if Notre Dame wanted to buy their way out of that, they could. I mean, they got all kinds of money. I mean, they've got endowment money and donors coming out to yin yang, man. They could buy their way out of that contract if they wanted to. So that's about as good as the paper it's written on, probably.
Yeah, well, if the ACC goes under, Notre Dame don't really have to abide by that, though, do they?
What's that now?
But the ACC starts losing teams left and right.
That's a whole different conversation at that point. Yeah.
So you said The Rock come back last night. I saw something the other night, but I see them things all the time, notifications about The Rock and him facing off against somebody, and I click on it, and it's fake. It's edited and makes it look like they're talking to each other when they're really not. I don't know if you ever seen those kind of things.
I have, yes.
But I thought it might have been something that was fake, but he actually did come back last night?
Yes, he did.
You trying to tell Roman Reigns he's not the head of the table?
Well, here's what's interesting. Well, first he kicked Jinder Mahal's hind, and Jinder Mahal came back too, and he kicked his hind in. And then he got the microphone, and he said, "When I leave the arena tonight, I'm going to go eat at a restaurant. Do you want me to sit in a booth? Do you want me to sit at the bar, or do you want me to sit at the head of the table?" And of course, the crowd, head of the table. And he said, "That's what I thought." And then he did, if you smell what the Rock is cooking, and they hit the music, and that was the end of it.
Roman Reigns didn't come out there?
No, he didn't. But it makes you wonder what they're building to, because, with CM Punk back in the fold now, he came back to headline WrestleMania. Why else would he do it?
Yeah, he come back, but he hadn't been received as well as I thought he would be. The crowd's into him, but a lot of the wrestlers, it seems like, and I ain't saying this from a storyline perspective, because I know him and Seth Rollins are just hating on each other in a storyline kind of thing. But I'm hearing behind the scenes is there's not a lot of people happy with him being back in the locker room.
That's probably true. He's not a very well liked guy. He has a hard time getting along with people, is my understanding. I like that comment by 1989 M. That's cool.
Yeah, I would like to be the head of the table. If I can just get me a good sponsor, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this thing big time one day.
Hey, The Rock. Hey, Vic Honus, I don't blame him. Do what you can do, man.
I think it was a good move by the UFL, by the way, to combine the two leagues, man. I think that was great. That was a great thing that they did, man.
Agreed.
I think I might actually go to a UFL game this year. Birmingham Stallions aren't far from where I live, so about an hour and 10 minutes maybe. So I might go to a UFL game. Never been to one. When I was a kid back in the day, when I was growing up, a little older than you, we had the Birmingham Stallions of the USFL, and I used to love the Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does well.
Ryan Johnson said insiders have said that Cody Rhodes versus Roman 2 at WrestleMania 40. I don't know.
Well, WrestleMania is 2 nights now, so maybe they do that night one, and then they do Roman and no, Roman I can't wrestle do 2 nights though. I don't know. Maybe it'll be CM Punk and Cody, and then heck, CM Punk may not even make it to WrestleMania. He might get fired before they get there. Who knows?
Is CM Punk is he Raw or SmackDown?
He's Raw.
Okay, so he would.
But I don't know if he was there. I didn't watch it. I just saw
he'd be having to fight Seth Rollins then.
WWE put it on their WWE put it on their Twitter feed last night after it happened.
Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That's probably what they're angling for, because he's had such a long streak. I think he's like third all time for the longest held belt reign, only behind Hulk Hogan and
Bruno Sammartino.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Bruno. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think they're going to let him take Hogan's spot. I think they're probably going to make him lose before that. What do you think?
What's that now? I was reading a comment.
I don't think they'll let Roman Reigns take Hogan's spot on the record.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to want Rock to win. I mean, Rock's not even a full-time guy.
Well, they let Bill Goldberg come in and win it.
Yeah, they did, and they let Brock Lesnar do it.
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Goldberg guy, when he was back in his heyday, but I thought that was just, to me, that was a slap to the face to the guys who were there night in, night out, busting their hind end. I didn't like that at all. But
who's that guy that's got the Money in the Bank thing now? He's in the he's in that group with Rhea Ripley. Damian Priest.
Damian Priest. I like he's pretty good.
Damian Priest is related to The Rock and him.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, man. Damian Priest, you got obviously Roman, you got the Usos, you've got that other guy that's in the bloodline. I can't think of his name. You got the woman wrestler. What is her name?
Rhea Ripley?
No, not Rhea. Nia Jax, she's related to him.
Oh, yeah.
You had Rikishi, I think he's related to him. There's a bunch of them, man. That
family would not surprise me if they threw a swerve and maybe had The Rock lose to Roman Reigns and then Damian Priest come out there and cash in on him.
Never know.
Now, Damian Priest is on Raw, so I don't know if they let him do that or not.
Never know, man. I've seen some surprising cash-ins with that Money in the Bank briefcase, so you never know.
Exactly. Ryan Johnson sort of agrees with you on that. Rock isn't a competitor anymore. Nobody's going to want to have a champion that's not even around. They want it off Roman as it is. Yeah, because Roman's not around either. These wrestlers, man, they're always taking shots at each other for doing that. John Cena used to make fun of The Rock because he was never around. And then John Cena was never around. And Roman Reigns was making fun of him for it.
No, Roman's, yeah.
And then Roman Reigns was making fun of Brock Lesnar too. And now Roman Reigns is doing it.
Yeah, Brian says Damien is not related to him. I didn't think he was either, but again, there's so many of them I can't keep track.
Yeah, I heard Damien was.
So I don't know enough about it to disagree with you. I hadn't heard that, but again, I don't know all of them either. So I don't watch wrestling. I'm not as dialed in as I used to be. I used to watch it religiously.
I might start doing some wrestling stuff because it's getting a little more interesting to me. But it's like Chris said, if I do that, I'm taking a chance that might hurt my channel. If I do a wrestling,
yeah, you'd probably want to do it on a different channel if you did that. Honestly, if I had time, I'd start another channel and talk about something else besides college football. But I just don't have time. I barely got time to do the one I got.
If I knew, there's probably a trick to it because black and white sports and Clay Travis, they all have done it. You know, they talk sports at first, and now they dab into the political.
Yeah, but they got big enough to where they could. You
Exactly.
got to get your channel big enough to where you can do that. I mean, it's you and I are not big enough to do that. At least I don't think.
You don't know if you should told him she was a kindergarten teacher. That's a lot of men's fetish in here, Caroline.
Oh Lord.
She said she's a kindergarten teacher. Ain't that what you remember that movie Coyote Ugly?
Yeah, I do, but man, I haven't seen. It's been so long, I don't remember the details.
That's what she introduced her as. She introduced her because her name was Violet, and she's like, "Well, I might have to use something better than that." She said, "This is Jersey. She's a kindergarten teacher that hasn't been laid, and yada yada yada."
Wow.
I get a little off track. My bad.
That's all right. I heard you singing "Sweet Caroline" earlier, man, and that's that song bring back. You know, that's
some West Virginia stuff there, ain't it?
Yeah, it is.
Pretty ironic was having you on here tonight and start singing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I heard you singing it when you were talking about Mary Caroline, and you started singing that song, and I'm thinking that they were singing that the other night at the bowl game. It actually worked out perfect because that apparently, and I didn't know this, but that is a tradition. The North Carolina teams play that song during their games. Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm assuming. I think it's about Carolina. Sweet Caroline, I think, is a Carolina.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a connection. I don't know the history, but my understanding is there's some kind of connection there. So it's like a tradition. Well, Pitt started doing it too at their games years ago, and West Virginia, obviously, because Pitt did it, West Virginia started saying "Eat shit, Pitt" during the bye part of the song, and during the chorus. So obviously, when they played it at the bowl game the other night, that's what we did, and you could hear it throughout the whole stadium. And of course, the North Carolina media people loved it. The TV people love it. Everybody thinks it's hilarious, but because that's what college football is about, right? Is rivalries, man, and that's people love it.
So let me ask you this sort of off topic a little bit, but how do you think Oklahoma and Texas is going to do in their first year in the SEC?
First year, I think they'll be competitive. I don't think they'll win the league necessarily, but I think they'll be competitive. I don't see why they can't be just as good as an Ole Miss or because they recruit up there with those teams anyway. To me, at the end of the day, the SEC is so good because they get the best players. Texas and Oklahoma are already recruiting those kind of players. There might be an adjustment period as far as learning the types of players you need, as far as scheme and types of bodies you need to compete. But I think they'll have the talent to do it. Might be a coaching adjustment or two to make and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think they'll be fine. Like I said, they probably won't win the conference as often as as often as Oklahoma did. Texas hadn't won the league for a while until this year, but they'll be competitive. I think they'll be able to compete with most of the league. I mean, Texas beat Alabama this year, so I mean, to me, that right there shows you that I don't think they'll have an issue competing.
Yeah, they talk about that a lot, but I try to tell them, look, Alabama gets a lot of the fanfare, but beating Alabama is not going to guarantee you anything. People think that. Texas A&M thought they beat Alabama. That was it. And Texas A&M still never won an SEC title.
Yeah.
Never even made it to an SEC championship game yet. Now Missouri did twice, but
right. Well, it's just one game. I mean,
Alabama. The people think that's it, but that's not it.
It matters though. I mean, I don't think you're giving your team enough credit. Alabama's the top of the food chain. They're the head of the table. Or at least they were. Now they might have come down a notch. You could argue now that Georgia is the head of the table, or something like that. But I mean, look, then Alabama turned around and beat them this year. So to me, Georgia and Alabama are the two top programs in America.
Nick Saban basically pulled a rock before the rock pulled a rock. Right?
That's right.
He took the head of the table back.
That's right. They did. They did. That's what they did.
And he's a West Virginia boy. You should be proud of him.
Who, Saban?
That's right.
Well, I mean, I am, but he hasn't done a whole lot for us. So
I know, right?
Now, I'm sure he probably has behind the scenes somewhere down the line. But
so, in the end, with this conference realignment stuff, if you had to just someone cornered you and asked you who would end up in the Big Ten and the SEC in the future, in the next 5 years, I mean, who would you say would end up in the two conferences in the next 5 years?
I think the Big Ten is going to end up getting Florida State and Clemson. And I think SEC ends up getting North Carolina, Virginia, maybe even Virginia Tech, because I think those two schools are kind of tied at the hip a little bit because of political pressures.
Mm.
And probably one more school, maybe NC State, or I don't know. But I think
About Miami.
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about Miami. Yeah, Miami. Well, let me back up a minute.
And Georgia Tech's got the Atlanta market.
Yeah, I think. But they've been so bad at football, man, for the last several years. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking maybe the Big Ten would like to have them.
Maybe just to get into Atlanta.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not a bad. I mean, there are a lot of other people who feel the same. I don't know, man. It's hard to predict because the SEC too, from what I've heard and what I've read. I don't want to say heard, but from what I've read in some of these articles, there are a lot of people in SEC country that don't appreciate, and I'm talking about people in leadership roles, presidents, chancellors, those types of people, that aren't happy with how arrogant and loud Florida State's being about this whole situation. When Texas and Oklahoma, they did it behind closed doors.
That's right.
Florida State's being out in the open. A lot of people, that rubs a lot of people the wrong way in this college and university world. People don't like that.
Well, it's like Paul Feinbaum said. I don't agree with him much, but there's administrators for the ACC, the presidents, and all of them. They all talk and hang out together sometimes at luncheons,
right,
meetings, and stuff. The SEC presidents hang out with the ACC presidents, so the ACC probably wouldn't try and do Florida State any favors in getting them in the playoffs or any kind of favors since they've been throwing them under the bus, right?
Well, I mean, they should have if they get money for it. I mean, the Big 12 just made $6 million. Because Texas got in the playoff, even though they're leaving the league.
Exactly.
So, I mean, to me, Jim Phillips should have been out ahead of that thing and doing more preemptive work, so to speak, to help plead Florida State's case. But he didn't, and that's another reason they're pissed off. What's funny to me about this whole Florida State thing, and I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit, but what's funny to me is they're pissed off at the ACC. Why is it the ACC's fault they didn't get in?
It ain't. That's what I'm saying. That's why the ACC don't like them.
So they're going to go to. So I'm in agreement with you, but I also understand their argument that they think Jim Phillips should have done more. But I mean, everybody and their mother thought they were going to get in. I did. I thought they were going to get in.
I didn't.
You didn't think they were going to get in?
No, I'd said yes. Yes, my friends, not before. It's like, man, Florida State, the way they played the last couple of weeks, man, they're not going to put them in.
Yeah, matter of fact, I do think I remember you saying that now. Now that I think about it, I think you put it.
At the time, it might not have been fair, but I can see it coming, man.
But when you look at it, I mean, if Florida State's pissed off, they should be pissed off at ESPN or the committee or whoever.
Yeah.
And if they want to claim SEC bias, so you think the SEC and ESPN colluded to get you out, but yet you're going to go join the SEC and ESPN? What sense does that make?
Well, that's why they're not going to get in, because they trashed ESPN a little bit.
Well, I don't know that matters. I mean, it does, but I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to this right here. If ESPN thinks getting Florida State and the SEC is going to help them financially, or keep Fox from getting them, because that's another key here. They don't want Florida State's in the Big Ten. Guess who's not showing their games? ESPN. Right? ESPN doesn't want Fox to have Florida State. So they might swallow their pride and go ahead and do the deal or help them do the deal just to keep Fox from reaping the benefits. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's just like, Big 12 was pissed off at ESPN too for the whole Texas Oklahoma thing, but the ESPN and Big 12 still did a media deal together. So at the end of the day, it's all about the Benjamins, man. They'll all put their pride aside if it means they're going to make a few bucks.
Jack Acker says, when the NCAA, NFL's over, how about we talk about XFL or other college sports like soccer? I'm not a real big soccer guy.
Yeah.
I don't even think college soccer is that big in the United States. Not a lot of people watch it.
It's gaining in popularity, but it's nowhere near the level of football.
Right. And the XFL merged with the USFL, and it's now what, the UFL?
Yep.
So the XFL is no longer in existence. But yeah, I was talking to Kuz about that earlier. I'm thinking about going to some Birmingham Stallions football games this spring. It's funny saying spring when we talk about football.
Right, it is, isn't it? I have a hard time even getting into it. It just doesn't seem. It seems weird to me to watch football in the springtime. It just doesn't feel normal.
It's like it's got a stigma attached to it, like it's Bush League or something.
Yeah, it does. It's just odd. I can't. I have a hard time getting past it, to be honest.
Billy Townsend says, would that be the OWE channel, the Outlaw of World Wrestling?
Outlaw Wrestling Entertainment.
That's right.
The Alabama Slammer.
It could be the Alabama Slammer. Kuz would be the West Virginia money maker. It'd be the money shot.
There you go.
Somebody down here doing crunches.
Lori Brogdon doing 500 a day.
Shit. You know, they say sit-ups are sort of overrated, and when it comes to getting abs and whatnot.
I've heard that too. It's all about diet, man.
It's diet and getting out there and running. And
it's I used to be a fanatic about working out and stuff, and I used to read on all this stuff, and I'm no expert, but from what I read, it's all about keeping your body fat percentage low. That's how you get. I mean, it's good to build your ab muscles. Don't get me wrong, but if you really want a six pack, you gotta have your body fat percentage has to be low, and you do that by dieting. At the end of having a healthy diet and not eating too many calories.
Big Connie's Killer says he feels like he's cheating on a woman watching spring football.
Solo Sikoa is the other wrestler. Thank you, Jeff Payton.
What's that?
Jeff Payton said, by the way, Outlaw, Rikishi is the daddy of the Usos and Solo Sikoa in WWE. Solo Sikoa is the wrestler I couldn't think of earlier.
Yeah. They're really pushing that Solo Sikoa pretty hard, and I don't understand it, man. To me, you just ain't got that much talent like the Usos do.
The Usos are good, man. They got the charisma, they got the athleticism. They're it, man. I like the.
They're calling him Main Event Jay now. And I was telling my friend of theirs, like, man, how are they calling him Main Event Jay and he's never held the world belt? Hell, he ain't even won the Intercontinental belt.
I know.
And he's called Main Event Jay? Really?
Yeah, they're pushing him hard, man. You can tell.
And those dudes got in a lot of trouble a while back for some DUIs and some drug charges. So. Yeah,
again, like I said, I go back and watch old videos like from the 90s and stuff.
Oh yeah.
More than I watch live wrestling on Raw or SmackDown or whatever.
You got Peacock?
No, I do not. Well, I do, yes.
Peacock, I do. You can go back and watch all the WrestleManias and all the Royal Rumbles. Now I've been going back and watching the old ones like 1988 and shit.
I just find them on YouTube most of the time. Roman is the chosen one.
Says that the bloodline gimmick brought me back into loving wrestling again. Roman is the chosen one. He really is.
Yeah.
Roman was sort of struggling at first with trying to run with that label, but I think this bloodline gimmick has really helped him out a lot.
Yeah, Roman Reigns is. I was actually talking to my daughter's boyfriend about this today because he's a wrestling fan. Him going heel is really the best thing he's done in his career because he's great at it. He's the perfect heel. He's got the personality for it. He was not real good as a face. He just, for whatever reason, it didn't. The fans didn't gravitate to him as a face. But as a heel, he's great. And I think that Roman's not great on the microphone. So pairing him up with Paul Heyman was a genius move. And it's really Paul Heyman, man. I tell you, look what he's done for some of these wrestlers' careers. Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, now Roman Reigns. If you want your career to take off, go be with Paul Heyman for a couple years, man, and your career will take off like a rocket.
Who was that Swiss guy, the one that Cesaro? He had Cesaro. He had Cesaro for a little while. He couldn't even help nobody.
I liked Cesaro. He was one of my favorite wrestlers, man.
He's, as far as talent and technique, he's one of the best, but he just couldn't talk.
I feel like he got shafted a little bit. I didn't. They didn't give him enough push, in my opinion.
What's the guy's name? I can't remember his name. The one that's feuding with Seth Rollins right now. He's a Scottish guy. He's a big
Oh
dude.
yeah, he actually held a world belt. McIntyre.
Yeah, McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre.
I used to be a big Drew McIntyre fan. When he kicked Brock Lesnar over that top rope, man, that was epic.
Yeah.
But then he held the belt during the 2020 COVID thing, which is sort of sucked for him because there was nobody in the crowd.
I mean, he's really good at. He's a good wrestler, and he's not my. I don't like his persona. He's not that entertaining to me, but he is good at what he does, and I kind of hated it for him that he had to have the belt during that time. So there are certain title reigns in wrestling that you look at and go, like, Dolph Ziggler. You know, he was world champion, I think, at one time, but I don't even remember him being world champion.
It was a very short tenure. He cashed in on somebody.
Yeah, and then there's been a couple others that just weren't that memorable.
And the Miz used to be a world champion.
Kevin Owens, the Miz.
Yeah. Backing up a little bit, Billy Townsend agrees with you about Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
He's not really liked much by the fans, but he really is the dude.
Well, that's the point. He's great at being hated, and that's right. If you're a wrestler, you either want to be extremely loved or extremely hated, and he's one of the best at being hated in the business.
That's right. That's what Triple H said. He's like, you got to really make them hate you or love you. There's no in between. If you're in between, you're not.
The only wrestler that's ever been able to kind of find the middle. There's been two wrestlers that I know of that have been able to, and that Stone Cold was kind of a heel, but yet the fans loved him. So he was a little bit different. And then John Cena, you had half the crowd that loved him and half that hated him. But he was so popular already that it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And John mentioned recruiting. By the way, John, thanks for being on here, man. If you haven't subscribed to Outlaw, you need to. I know he's on my channel a lot. But yeah, it's recruiting. I don't have the time to follow. Yep. Appreciate it, brother. Good night.
All right, brother. Take care. That was Kuz from Kuz's Corner. He does a lot of college football realignment talk. I wanted to bring him in there. We got a little off base there. Started dragging a little bit, talking about our plans for the off season, that kind of deal. Says here that Billy Townsend thinks recruiting is a good idea. I probably will talk some recruiting. I've done some recruiting last year during the off season. Billy Townsend. Big Cojones Kelly says he has an idea for me. He'll message me about it later. But as far as recruiting goes, I did see something about Oklahoma earlier. I think they got a few players out of the transfer portal, but I haven't got their names handy in front of me right now. But Oklahoma so far and Texas are both going into the SEC next year, as you know. And their recruiting is doing rather well. A lot of SEC people don't think that the Oklahoma Sooners and Texas will come in and contend for SEC titles right away. They may not win an SEC title, but they will contend. They're not like Texas A&M and Missouri. Even further back, Arkansas and South Carolina. Those four teams that joined the last two times are nowhere near the brand that Texas and Oklahoma are. As I mentioned earlier, they've won 11 national championships between the two teams. So they're going to come in there absolutely 150% going to contend for SEC titles. Will they win one? Probably not. I'd say give it about 4 or 5 years, and either Oklahoma or Texas will win an SEC title. What do y'all think? Jeff Payton says, the Georgia Hedge Pissers, Brock Bowers enters NFL draft. Thank goodness. Yeah, old Brock Bowers used to mess us up, didn't he, when he was healthy? If y'all don't mind, jump out and hit the like button. Also share this with some of your friends if you want to get some more people up in here so we can keep this live stream going a little bit longer. Numbers are lagging tonight. Big Cojones Kelly says, I don't get excited about recruiting as I used to. The transfer portal kind of put a damper on it. That is true. Now they have 2 signing periods. The early signing period is really the signing period. I don't even know why they have to. Everybody should just be made to sign in December. Why give it 2 months? And that's not enough time in between. If you're going to have 2 signing periods, have one in December and have one in like May or some shit, right? And only 2 months apart. If y'all got any more questions, anything that you really want me to touch on, hit the little money dollar sign at the bottom. Write your comment out, send it. We'll highlight it, make a little small donation to the program. Lord knows I need it. He ripped Alabama in the college football championship game 2 years ago. Yes, he did. I saw a Michigan fan on here earlier, not the one that was in here, but it was on my actual podcast or my Facebook. He was talking about that Michigan should have actually beat Alabama by about 21 points or maybe even at least 14 because of all the turnovers that Michigan had. But I was trying to be sportsmanlike, and I even said that Michigan deserved to win the game. Our center really screwed us a lot. But since he's trying to make excuses for turnovers, now Alabama had the roughing the kicker, the roughing the punter, which was obvious. I mean, it was bright as day that the damn punter was roughed. Then you had that interception that was called not an interception that was sort of lame. And then you had the guy that muffed the second punt that fell back into the end zone that could have been a safety. So if the Michigan fans going to come on my Facebook or my podcast and try to make excuses as to why Michigan should have beat Alabama by 21 points, then I'm going to come back with this kind of stuff. I don't normally try to make excuses, but if you're going to come at me with that kind of stuff and make excuses for only beating Alabama by 7, they'll be grateful that you beat them. Then I'm going to come back with my excuses. Mark Hampton in the house. Mark Hampton, by the way, I don't know if I just told y'all, but y'all need to smash that like button for me real quick. Just jump back in here. It'll only take you 5 seconds. Mark Hampton says, okay, OCF, what's your prediction for the national championship game? I'm hoping for Washington. Why? I don't know, but I am. Well, I would like to see Washington win. If you're asking me who I want to win, it's Washington. I do want Washington to win, even though Michigan beat us and make us look good, because if Michigan won the title, then Alabama would have gotten beat by Michigan and Texas. We would have got beat by one of the semifinalists and the national champion. So that'd make Alabama look good. But I still want Washington to win just because Washington hasn't won a national championship since 1991. Michigan last won a national title, I think it was in 1997. They split with Nebraska. So both these teams haven't won a national title this century. So we're going to get some new blood in college football. And I think that's a good thing. I really think that's a good thing for college football that we're getting some new blood finally in the mix, even though it's at the expense of my team. Southern teams have won the national championship a crazy amount of times this century. I think it's like 21 out of 23 or 20 out of 23 or something like that, or 20 out of 22. So it's good for college football and to keep the interest at a good level, that you have more geographically different teams possibly win the national championship. Billy Townsend says people keep talking crap on Jackson Arnold. I guess apparently it doesn't matter that he was starting his first game, which was in a bowl game, no less. Now he's getting counted out ahead of next year. He'll prove them wrong. I believe you're right. He didn't. There's a lot going against Jackson Arnold in that game, to be honest with you. All right, y'all talking about cooking. So the show has proceeded to cooking and crunches and all that good stuff. And we even talked a little bit of wrestling. So doesn't seem like y'all have any more questions for me. So I'm going to get out of here. It was good seeing y'all once again. The year is winding down. It's another college football season in the books, man. It goes by fast. Like I said before, it's like a blink of the eye. Why don't y'all go ahead and give me your predictions for the national title game. Who do y'all think is going to win? What do you think the score is going to be? Michigan or Washington? Y'all can drop it in the comment section. Once this video uploads to the podcast, y'all can go on there and y'all can give me your predictions if you want to, or you can give them to me right now. But I won't be able to see them later, so you might want to wait for that. I don't know. Washington by 10, says Mark Hampton. Mark Hampton says Washington by 10. Big Cojones Kelly says Michigan. Now, if I'm going to tell y'all who I think is going to win, Mark, I think Michigan's probably going to win the game. But I'm hoping Washington wins. But if I had to predict, I would say it's probably going to be more along the lines of what happened yesterday with Alabama. Maybe a little more high scoring than that. I'm going to say Michigan 30 and Washington maybe 24, or Michigan might score a little bit more than that. Give them another field goal. 33-24 Michigan, maybe. Big Cojones Kelly said it'll be vacated in 2 years. You could be right. You could be right. Although I think the cheating took place in 2022. So they'd have to go back and get their 2022 wins and their bowl win. The cheating didn't take place this year. So I don't know if they would do that. They'd probably just take the 2022 wins away. Big Cojones Kelly. All right, boys and girls. I'm fixing to get up out of here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Those are the big four. They're free. And you can also get an Outlaw Posse if you want to. As you can see these people in here with their badges like Big Cojones Kelly, Billy Townsend, and whatnot, Jeff Payton. They're an Outlaw Posse. If you want to be an Outlaw Posse and get your badge and get deputized and maybe be one of the random Four Horsemen shout-outs on the actual podcast, it's just $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. And you'll also possibly be the comment of the day along with the Four Horsemen shout-outs on the actual podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.